So student, so far we have learned about various types of coupling, their functions, and we also try to explore the design equation of Muff coupling. And lastly, we were solving the numericals on Muff coupling to strengthen the understanding of various design equations. Now let's continue with the couplings. Today we are going to learn about flange couplings. Now flange coupling is basically a mechanical coupling as per the classification, and it is fall under the rigid coupling. Okay. Now what's the difference between Muff coupling and flange coupling? Muff coupling basically it's a hollow cylindrical construction, right? While the word called flange coupling, a flange means at the end of shaft you have a thin disc type of structures, right? Two thin disc type of structures are basically connected using bolts which connect the two shafts, right? So this extended portion is referred as flange. Because these two elements are so constructed and they are used as a coupling device, they are referred as flange coupling. A flange coupling is consist of two flanges, one keyed to the driving shaft and another is to the driven shaft as shown in the figure, right? So this is, let's say, driver shaft and driven shaft. So left side of the, as per the definition, the flange coupling connect driving shaft and driven shaft keyed together with the flange, right? So this is the example over here, right? So this is half of the flange coupling and this is second half of the coupling, right? Both are connecting driver and driven shaft by using the keying to the shaft. Okay. Now there are type of flange coupling. One is simply protected and second is unprotected. The only difference is here, as explained earlier, you have certain small projection which simply protect the operator against failure, right? So in protected type of flange coupling, protecting circumferential rim. This is what circumferential rim. Look at over here, right? Cover the bolts, heads and the nut. In case of failure of bolts while machining is being run, the broken pieces of the nut and bolt will dash against this rim. क्या होगा, मतलब वो उसको टकराएगा और हो सकता है इट विल सिंपली फॉल डाउन एट द ऑन द ग्राउंड. ठीक है, अगर ये रिम नहीं है तो क्या होगा, इट फ्लाई अवे इन द ओपन एनवायरनमेंट. तो यहाँ पे अगर कोई वर्कर है, ऑपरेटर है, उसको हीट कर सकता है. सो देयर विल बी इंजरीज, राइट? सो टू प्रिवेंट दिस, द प्रोटेक्टेड टाइप ऑफ फ्लैंज कपलिंग इज यूज्ड बाय सिंपली projecting this rim construction, right? So this is what I'm talking about, right? That's why this is what the only difference between the protected and unprotected flange coupling. Now here, the main component of the flange coupling is two shaft, that is driven and driver, then the key, and then these hub portions, then this nut bolt which join two halves, okay? And you can say this recess portion which is used to fix or to assemble two half of the flange coupling in aligned way, right? So it helps to keep the assembly in a center wise, right? So it not going to misalign. Now there is also a flexible coupling, right? Now what's the difference between this type of rigid coupling and flexible coupling? Here the bush type of rubber bush type of material is introduced here. Just look at this part, right? So because of that, small misalignment and the overloading is permitted, which is not possible in case of protected type of or unprotected type of rigid flange coupling, right? So this is what the provisions. That's why we have a two type of coupling. One is mechanical, second is flexible, right? So under the flexible, you can use the rubber bush type of flange coupling, where because of this rubbery material, which is a spongy material, we can say elastic material, we can press it. So some sort of, so because of this rubber bush material, we can have a provision to absorb or to handle the misalignment as well as the overloading situation, right? So this is where the flexible coupling is used. Now, what are the overall advantages? First, the rigid coupling has high torque transmitting capacity. You have to remember this. Because being in rigid and solid in construction, it offers high torque transmission capacity, which is not possible with the case of flexible, okay? It is easy to assemble and dismantle. You can just look at the figure. Just unbolt these nuts or there is a dismantle of assembly, right? तो आप उसको क्या कर सकते हैं, easily उसको unmount कर सकते हैं, repair कर सकते हैं. This is an advantage. Now rigid coupling has simple construction. Just look at it, simply a hollow structure and there is a projected rim, right? So it's a simple construction. It is easy to design and manufacture, very easy to understand. सिंपल है, कंस्ट्रक्शन में टर्निंग करके आप बना सकते हो या फिर फोर्जिंग करके ड्रिलिंग करके भी बना सकते हो, राइट? नाउ व्हाट आर द डिसएडवांटेजेस विद दिस कंस्ट्रक्शन? Being a rigid type of coupling, it cannot tolerate the misalignment between the axis of two staff. Very good. So it cannot tolerate the misalignment between two axes of two shaft, right? So which is possible in case of flexible coupling, but it is not possible in case of rigid coupling. It can be used only where the motion is free from shock and vibration. This is very important. If your two shaft are basically properly aligned and the machineries are well mounted, means the purpose of telling is that there is no chances of shock or overloading and vibration. In those cases, the rigid type of flange coupling is preferable, right? If it is having vibration, what will happen? These nut bolts will loosen out and they're going to be simply fly away, right? So they may hit the operator and ultimately it disturb or simply affect the functioning of two shaft and hence the overall assembly of machines, right? It require more radial space. Definitely, as the torque transmission capacity increases, you have to increase the diameter of these flanges, right? Because as per the design equations, to carry more torque, you have to provide more distance, right? Torque is nothing, moment into distance by, or you can say radial distance, right? So if you want to transmit more torque and power, what you can do, you have to increase this distance by keeping in mind the limitation of material limit of movement, right? So by making larger disc in diameter, you can transmit more torque. But doing so, it require more radial space. आपको ज़्यादा जगह चाहिए, right? This is again disadvantage. So if you are designing your flange coupling for higher torque transmission capacity, you need to rethink about the space available at the assembly point, right? If it is limited, you have to look for the alternative to the flange coupling. If the space is not allowing the changes in design. Now let's talk about the design of flange coupling. Mostly it is protected type. Now when you say design of flange coupling means it's not simply only flange, it's a shaft, design of shaft. You have to find the shaft diameter, right? Then you have to find out the length and the width and thickness of the key, okay? Because shaft, key and flange make the protected type flange coupling. Coupling itself is not working because flange coupling dimension is taken in proportion with the shaft diameter, right? So here the third stage is to find the flange dimensions. But in case of first category is design of shaft. Here you need to find the torque from power transmitted. As we know, P is equal to 2 pi n T divided by 60. If the power value is given to you, using this equation, you can find the torque in terms of Newton meter. Then by considering torsional shear stress, pi by 16 d raised to cube into tau, right? So you can find torque from these equations, right? So first step is you must have shaft diameter, without which you cannot continue the designing of flange coupling. If shaft diameter is given, then find the induced stress and compare with the permissible value of the shear stress. This is simply a checking step. अगर आपके पास डायमेंशन पहले से दिए हुए हैं तो यू हैव टू कंफर्म वेदर दोज डायमेंशंस, वेदर गिवन डायमेंशंस is okay or not, and that is only possible by simply finding out the induced stress and comparing with the permissible stress. If it is less than that, we can say the given value of shaft diameter is okay. If it is more than that, you have to increase the shaft diameter, right? Now again, in case of design of key, length of this key is taken equal to the hub length, right? यहाँ पे क्या करना है? Let's try to see. So here we are going to insert the key, right? So the length of the key is taken as, let me show you in this figure, okay? So you can easily understand. Here this is the key. This is also a key. So the length of the key is taken equal to the length of hub. तो हब कहाँ पे है? ये इतना सारा हब है, राइट? तो उसकी जो लेंथ है उसके हिसाब से की लेंथ ली जाती है, ठीक है? तो वो कितना है? So that is length of hub is equal to 1.5 times shaft diameter. So this is the length of key, right? It is written very clearly because वो उतने ही बनने वाले हैं, ठीक है? So here D is simply shaft diameter, and other dimension of key width can be taken in proportion with the shaft diameter, as usual we learned in the previous theories, right? By considering the shearing and crushing strength of key, right? Now the important steps come, the design of flange. Now what are the different dimensions? The first come is hub design. Now what is this hub? So here this part, this small hollow cylindrical part, this one is called hub, right? So that fits on the shaft and it is firmly joined on a shaft by using key, right? So now it's time to come that we have to design the hub, then we have to design the flange dimensions. Dimension of hub are obtained in proportion of the shaft diameter. This is most important sentence, right? So we are going to adapt in proportion with the shaft diameter, right? And then we are going to verify the shear stress induced. Here hub is considered as hollow shaft as usual, or you can say simply consider like a muff coupling, which is also considered as a hollow shaft, right? Now here diameter of hub is taken as 2 times shaft diameter. This is proportions. We are going to adapt this. Let's say your shaft diameter is 50 millimeter. Then the hub diameter will be equal to 100 millimeter, right? But we have to verify whether the 100 millimeter dimension of hub is okay or not from the design equation point of view. Now what are those design equations? We have to consider the hub is going to fail in which situation. Torsional shear stress, or you can say the compression stress or tensile stress, whatever. Just try to understand the situation, because this is the torque is transmitted. This hub is simply going to subjected to torsional shear stress. So we have to use this equation by considering it hollow shaft, right? So this hub having dimensions, right? The inside dimension is equal to shaft diameter, but its overall outside diameter is equal to capital D, which is taken at 2 times of shaft diameter, right? So we are going to consider the hub itself as a hollow shaft, and we are going to use this equation. Torsional shear stress is equal to pi by 16 into d raised to 4. This is outside diameter, which is taken in terms of proportion of shaft diameter. This is again shaft diameter, and this is the again hub diameter. So we are going to find the shear stress induced, right? If it is less than the permissible stress, we can say the adopted dimension is safer for the given loading situations, right? We can take the length of hub is equal to, again in terms of shaft diameter, that is 50% higher than the shaft diameter, that is 1.5, right? So these two equations will give you the hub dimensions. Now for the flange dimensions, just look at the figure very carefully. There are shaft diameter, then hub diameter, then pitch circle diameter, that is this dotted line one, or you can say pitch circle diameter, on which we are going to fit the nut and bolt for joining the two half of the flange, right? Then the overall dimensions, the outer diameter of flange coupling. There is also a dimension of bolt, and there is also a dimension of you can see the length of hub and the rim thickness, right? And the thickness of the flange. So these are the dimensions we have to find out. But in case of flange, what we have is this thickness, the rim thickness, then the hub diameter, bolts, pitch circle diameter, and outside diameter. These are the main dimensions that we are going to find out. Now here, the first is pitch circle diameter for the bolt. So I am talking about these dimensions. Now it is directly taken as 3 times of shaft diameter. It is taken as in terms of relationship, right? Now torque transmitted through flange. How much torque is transmitted? So very simple. Try to understand, torque is nothing, force into distance. Now here we are going to take DH, means hub diameter. So this is the hub diameter. We are going to take half of it, right? Half of it, that is DH by 2. So this is the radius, right? So instead of R, I am going to take DH by 2. Now what about the force? So very simple. The shear stress is equal to force or load upon area. So here we are going to call tau, and load we applied is P, right? So instead of taking P, we are going to call it force, right? So to find out the force, we have to multiply the area with the shear stress. So I am going to write same equation here for understanding purpose. Torque is equal to force into dH by 2. Again, this F is simply area into shear stress. Now, what is this area? Where this torque is being transmitted, right? So just try to understand. Let me draw a circular figure. So here the tangentially force F is applied. So at what location it is applied? Very simple, at this point, right? So we have to consider a circumference which is pi d, pi dh, right? Multiply by thickness of flange, this much thickness of flange. So this is the area, circular area, right? So I'm going to write, instead of A, what I'm going to write is pi dh into T. This is the area at which the force is acting, right? So this is area, shear stress, and again dh by 2 to make it force into torque. So force into distance. So here we have two terms of dh. So that's why I have directly written pi dh square divided by 2 into thickness, flange thickness, and shear stress, right? So from this equation, we can either find the thickness of the flange, or if the thickness is taken as given here, the flange thickness is taken as 50% of the shaft diameter. So all of the dimension is known to us. So simply find out the torsional shear stress induced in the flange and compare with the given value. If it is less than that, we can say this adopted dimension of flange is okay. If it is not, then we have to change the proportion. We have to increase the dimensions. So from this, find the shear stress from the above equation and compare with the permissible value, right? Now for that, we can take the flange thickness. This is flange thickness. This is what? Flange thickness, which is taken as 50% of shaft diameter, right? So again, it's a proportions. Now thickness of the protecting rim. This is the protecting rim. It is taken as 25% of shaft diameter, right? So it is taken in terms of shaft diameter. So we are not going to verify that value because it's a relation and it is not taking part. It is not subjected to any loading, right? It is not covering any design equations. Simply we keep it as 25% of shaft diameter, right? We don't have to verify these dimensions because there is no stresses or the load is acting on particular this rim. The load is acting on this area. It is acting on the bolt diameter. It is acting on while transmitting on the considering the hub as a hollow shaft, right? It is also torque is transmitted from the shaft diameter. It is also passing through the key dimensions, right? So we have to verify shaft diameter, hub diameter, key dimensions, flange thickness, and the bolt diameter. Okay, so these are the main dimensions that we have to verify. But compared to that, this thickness dimension of rim T1 is not taking part in design. Simply we have to adapt it from this equation, right? Now, diameter of spigot recess. What exactly is these things, right? Try to understand. To have a proper align assembly, what we have is small projected part, or you can say it's like a male-female assembly, right? Male-female assembly. This helps this small projected part, disc-like structure and the female-like structure, hollow, opposite recess you can say, will help you to align two flanges with the shaft, right? So its diameter, dr, spigot recess diameter, is taken as 1.5 times d. It is not equal to hub diameter, which is 2 times of shaft diameter, right? So it is 50% less, you can say, right? So what is the purpose? The purpose of the recess diameter is to provide small projected disc-like structures which is having same negative impression on another half of the flange, right? So they help to assemble together in aligned way, right? So it ensure proper assembly of the flange coupling for the smooth functioning, right? You can say it is used for foolproofing assembly. Now the outside diameter of the flange, which is the largest diameter, or you can say this diameter, okay? It is taken as 4 times of shaft diameter. Again, we have to add up this value, right? It is not taking part of any design equation. Now lastly, we have to design the bolt, right? Without which the flange coupling is incomplete. Now we have to think, whenever you say design, what kind of force is acting, what kind of failure is happening, right, in the bolt. Based on that, we have the equations. So in flange coupling, bolts are subjected to direct stresses, direct shear stresses. How? Let me draw simply the head of the bolt like this, then its body, okay, like this, okay. So whenever the torque is applied on this bolt, so the circular cross section is subjected to shear stresses. So what happened? Because of that, the bolt may shear off like this from its shank body, right, in two pieces like this. So this is how the bolt is going to fail, right? So it is going to fail under pure direct stresses, shear stresses, right? So we have to design a bolt diameter DB in such a way that the force F acting due to torque transmission capacity or the requirement, that force is going to cause the direct shear stress failure, right? So we have to find out the dimension dB in such a way that the induced shear stress in the bolt is less than the permissible value, right? Now here, the one bolt is not going to assemble the flange coupling. We going to require more than the one bolt. So to find out the number of bolt, you can use this equation. Number of bolt n is equal to 0.02 shaft diameter plus 3. Let's say you are getting 4.56 value, right? So you have to use 5 bolts, right? But for proper assembly, you have to use 6, right? Because the even number is possible to equally distribute on a circular path, right? If you take only 5, it is very difficult, right? Yeah, to have a proper balancing of, just recall your theory of machine subject, right? Where you are balancing the load in a single simple plane by adjusting the same load by applying the in opposite direction. So because of centrifugal force, it is not going to create any unequal horizontal force on a shaft side. If it is, if any such load is exist, because of that, it is trying to create pull away due to centrifugal force, and that result in vibrations, right? So always take the value of bolt in even numbers, right? If you are getting 3.23, take 4. If you are getting this value, take 6. If you are getting say 7 point something, take the 8 value, right? But do not take odd value, because it is difficult to arrange them on a circular way. Just look at over here. If because there are 4, so each are distributed by 90 degree. If there are 6, there will be a 60 degree, right? Or maybe other angle, right? But it is possible to arrange in such a way that this bolt is having accompanied by opposite bolt, right? So due to rotation, centrifugal force, this is going to create a force in outward direction, but the opposite equal bolt is going to pull in a different direction. So it is balanced out. So there is no resultant centrifugal force acting on a shaft, right? That's why it is recommended that you have to use the even number of bolts. Now bolt diameter is referred as D1. In certain textbook, it is written as DB, right? But the concept is remain same. Now torque transmitted through bolt is equal to T is equal to pi by 4 d square. Why pi by 4 d square? This is the circular cross section area. Circular cross section area of bolt, right? So now, so here the bolt is having circular geometry. So if we consider a single bolt, we have to fill the circular area, right? So that circular area is simply pi by 4 d1 square. But here we have number of bolts, right? So we have to take number of n values, right? Because single bolt is not taking all the load. Let's recall this figure. Let's say 10 kilonewton torque, kilonewton force is acting, right? But there are 4 bolts is bearing the same load. So we have to divide by 4. We have to consider the number of bolt, right? So in this equation, the area of a single bolt failure and then the number of bolt, right? Now, these two things is making the overall area, right? Now here we are multiplying with the shear stress induced in the bolt, and this makes this circled value making the force, and same force is acting at D by capital D by 2. Now what is D? This is simply pitch circle. Let me show you in the figure, right? So here this capital D, this small pitch circle diameter D, which is taken as 3 times. This is 3 times, right? So where the force is acting like this. So we have to divide by D by 2. So this is distance. Okay. So force into distance is equal to torque. So force is replaced by shear stress into area, right? Very simple concept of torque. So from this equation, we can find the bolt diameter. Okay. Now crushing failure of bolt. There is one more possibility. If you look at carefully, the flange and the bolt body are touching each other like over here. So because of the application of torque, there are chances that this circular geometry, the outer shank diameter and the whole diameter of the flange is going to crush. They are going to compress each other, right? They are forcing against each other. So there are chances of crushing failure of bolts. So we need to verify that the found out diameter of bolt in shear failure is equally safe in crushing failure, right? So here verify the induced crushing stress in the bolt with permissible crushing stress given. Now what is the equation? Let me draw. This is let's say the flange hole in which we are going to fix the bolt, right? This is the bolt. So this projected area, this is projected area, rectangle area, right? Rectangle area is simply D1, which is bolt diameter, and the horizontal dimension, rectangle dimension, thickness, right? So this is the rectangle area, right? So the vertical side is D1 and horizontal side is T1. So this is the area, but there are number of bolts, there are number of areas. So N into D1 into T1, and here we are considering the crushing stress. So we have to multiply the crushing stress or compressive stress acting at a distance at D by 2, like a shear stress, right? Because bolt is fixed at the same position. So bolt is having two type of stress generation. One is shear failure possibility, second is crushing. But we have made it safe in shear stress. We simply find out the dimension in shear stress. So it is already safe in shear stress, but we don't know whether it is going to survive in crushing stress or not. So we have to verify the found out dimension of shear stress, of bolt diameter in shear stress in crushing failure, right? So this is the equation of crushing stress by considering the torque value. So here, just find out the crushing stress and compare with the value, right? If it is less than that, we can say bolt is equally safe in shear stress failure as well as compressive failure.